The South Africans, obviously, big name Springboks. You'd love them over on the 1st of July. Were those were visa issues, I understand, sort of COVID based? Could you just explain a bit what the issues were?
Yeah, I think it's just due to the situation in South Africa, really, Chris. The ability for people to get certain requirements to get the visa. They obviously all qualify for visa. Just the ability to get in and get the necessary paperwork done with the amount of places shut down has just taken a lot longer than we obviously all anticipated, which has been frustrating. But, on the plus side, we've been able to dedicate a lot of time and a lot more repetition with James and Ben, and Paul Iziki's back fit, Joe Marchant, Luke Northmore. So we've had other players in Andre's position. Tight heads, we've still got Simon Kerry, who had a great season great first half of the season, Will Collier and so on. So we've actually got numbers, and there'll be a nice boost when these guys arrive to give us a lift.
And I know there are some players and officials across the league who have had to go into quarantine because their holidays overlap with the change in regulations. Have you had any players in that situation, or fortunately not?
No, mate. We've been as good as gold, mate. We've been whiter than white. We've been clean all the way through this. I'm really pleased with the professionalism of the squad and the staff. Things can happen. Obviously, I appreciate that. You can't defend yourself against something that you can't see, but you can be smart and make good choices. And as a club, I'm really pleased that we've done that.
And in terms of gearing up for a first game, kind of after a pre-season or a strange mid-season break that we've had here, you've had run-outs in training. Getting to that that sort of match level intensity is obviously a challenge. Is it even more of a challenge when there aren't going to be any spectators in the ground? You've almost got to make sure your training is closer than ever to that kind of intensity.
Well, it is. I mean, look, I think like anything, we had quite a measured approach as the players came back. One thing we were really concerned about was the welfare of the players, of course. We're worried about their strength on the posterior chain, neck strength, particularly for the tight five. Then concerned about Achilles and groin flexibilities and hips for outside backs that haven't sprinted. And the one thing we spoke a lot about really is that when you go and condition and train yourself by yourself, everything's done by your own volition. You run by yourself, you change direction when you choose to change direction. In a sport that's multi-directional with contact, you're often reacting to different people doing different things. And therefore, your body has to respond quickly and subconsciously. And we saw evidence from footballs or evidence from the AFL, a little bit less evidence in NRL for like Achilles tears, groin tears, hamstring tears, and so on. So we're very measured coming back. We respected the social distancing like everybody else, I believe. And as over the last kind of 4 weeks, we've really stepped up in terms of contact progressions, in terms of isometric holds and loading for props. And then over the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 kind of full contact sessions against each other, which runs a risk, obviously, of injury. But I think it's important that players understood what it feels like to be a rugby player again in an empty stadium at the Stoop. So we've done that the last 2 Fridays, and I'm pleased to see again that the level of care for each other was disregarded when they played, but then obviously afterwards, the fact that no one fell out with each other was important too.
Cool, it's great for me. Cheers.
Hi, Gail here. Can you hear me?
Gail.
Hi. Just got a couple from me. Have you sort of spoken to other people in other sports? So we've seen sort of cricket react differently to crowds. The boxing was not having crowds. The boxing was quite interesting. The football. Have you spoken to anybody to gauge, or got your players to speak to anybody about what they might expect?
Look, I think we've all kind of canvassed opinion of people that we know. We've got our head of medical is connected with AFL. He used to be the head of medical over there. So we took some information from them. I spoke to Scott Wisemantel last week about what some of the Australian teams are doing. I've been in contact with Liam McDonald, with Aaron Major, Scott Robinson over in New Zealand. I spoke to a football manager to try and see what teams are doing. And one thing we kind of spoke to the players a bit about, it's like playing back at school or university, where there's 50 people in and around the stadium. Watching the game, and I suppose one thing we looked at a lot and spoke a lot about, Gail, was trying to find those players that are most intrinsically driven, that want to compete no matter what. So a lot of our training is being geared around creating individual contests where we can see who's got the most fight.